I took ownership. And if you want a next level life, you not only have to take ownership with other people, but you have to take ownership with yourself.
If you have a clear vision that you're connected to, your mind will work on it. Your mind will work on how to create it.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, weekly live Next Level You podcast for week number 95. We are talking about the 5 must-haves for a next level life. It's actually technically going to be the 10 must-haves because Alan and I are each going to do 5, but we decided that earlier. So at the end of the day, you know, Alan and I have been doing this for 5 years. We've had a lot of interviews with amazing people. We've coached a lot of people. We've connected with a lot of people. If you want to have a next level life, there are things that you're going to have to do. There's a strategy. There are fundamentals. And our goal is to talk to you about them today. Now, obviously, there's way more than 10, but these are the 10 that have had the biggest impact on myself, on Alan, on the team, our friends, family, loved ones, and clients.
I'm ready to rock, Kev. Do you want to start with yours or do you want me to...
I'll start with mine. Yeah, I'll start with mine. So I actually looked this up before because I wanted to have some data. I wanted to have some facts, Alan. Some facts. And you will, so I remember, and Alan, you'll appreciate this. I was playing chess with a couple of my friends. We were waiting for a Mike Tyson boxing match to start. And we waited all night to watch Mike Tyson box because at the time, he was one of the better boxers. He was electrifying. He was knocking people out. He was scary. He was violent, and I enjoyed that. I've always enjoyed combat sports. And I remember we waited 4 or 5 hours to watch him fight, and he knocked out his opponent, I think, in the first minute of the first fight. And as I learned more about Mike Tyson, I learned more about his childhood and his upbringing, and I learned a lot about him. And I remember a few years later, I saw that Mike Tyson filed for bankruptcy. And I was thinking to myself, how did somebody who made $30 million per fight at one point, the highest ever in boxing, he accrued a net worth of $300 to $400 million. How did he lose all his money? It doesn't make any sense to me. How does somebody lose all their money? Another famous person that a different generation might know, MC Hammer. He had the Hammer Pants, had the song Can't Touch This, had a net worth up in the mid-30s to low $40 million range, lost all of his money. And in an interview, he said, you know, at the time I had all this money, I had a community of 200 people I was paying for. I was paying for cars, I was paying for meals, I was paying for clothes. I had a budget of several $1 million a month I was spending. So my first point, you need someone in your corner that is a trusted advisor. Mike Tyson talked about this too. He said, I had a bunch of people around me who were trying to siphon money from me. Now, maybe we're not talking about money specifically in your life, but are there people around you trying to siphon your energy, your focus, your motivation, your belief in yourself? I'm blessed because I have Alan and we have a wonderful team and I have a wonderful fiance and I have great people in my life who I can go to and they can advise me and they can say, they can question me. Kev, have you ever thought of doing it like this? Tarryn does that for me all the time. I'll get off of a team call or I'll get off of a consultation or a call with Alan and I'll go and she'll say, hey, how was your day? And I'll say, oh, this kind of happened. And Alan and I are talking about going in this direction. And she'll say, have you ever thought of it this way? Like, what do you think would happen if you did it this way? And that's always been a pleasant perspective shift for me. So number one, you need somebody in your corner to question you. You need somebody that is a trusted advisor, somebody that will point you in the right direction, but they're there to check your ego and they make sure that you're not doing things that are out of alignment. The term that they use is yes men. So we'll just say yes people. You don't want a ton of yes people who just say, yeah, do this, or yep, you're doing it awesome. You want people who are going to challenge you. And the people who challenge you often help you create the greatest gifts.
Quick disclaimer on that. The people that challenge you, they need to have your best interest at heart, regardless of themselves, though. And I've had people in my life who have been, quote unquote, trusted advisors that I believed knew more than I did, who questioned me, but they didn't question me from the place of security and wanting me to go flourish. They questioned me from a place of insecurity and low awareness. So you have to be careful with that, not to take anything away from
No, I appreciate that. It's good.
Absolutely. Point. All right, so I'm a little embarrassed by this story, but I'm going to tell it. So when I was in high school, and Kevin, you'll remember this teacher, we had a government teacher named Mrs. Puckett. You
Never
remember
took
Mrs.
government.
Puckett?
I never took government, believe it or not. I wasn't in the, it wasn't the way I was going with my life.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. You weren't going to work in government. Okay. So in this class, and what I loved about government class was that Mrs. Puckett was very much about talking and having deep conversations about the global economy and about the world and beyond just the subject of government. I remember we talked about Steve Jobs and the first iPhone. It was 2007. I was a senior in high school. And we were talking about goals and dreams. And this is one of the only classes where we really talked about goals and dreams, which is fascinating in hindsight. So I'm in government class. We're talking about, what are your dreams? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to accomplish? And I told the class, and I, in hindsight, now understand why this happened, but I told the class that I wanted to one day be an Abercrombie model. Now, that was only one of my many dreams, but I got laughed at by the entire class for that. People are like, you couldn't be that. I remember I was wearing this like really nice, what I thought was nice, black. It's actually similar to this, but it had like a nice collar on it. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I could totally do that if I wanted to, but I've always had a lot of self-belief, so I understand in hindsight why I got made fun of. Anyways, the whole class made fun of me, genuinely laughed at me. Of course, Alan would say that whole thing. And it's quite a theme of people laughing at me in high school.
I was going to say, I'm telling you, that you must have had some interesting people in your classes.
It's just, I think it's when you say audacious things like that, people think you're arrogant. I think it comes down to that same thing, that same thread. But Mrs. Puckett pulled me aside after class, and she said, Alan, I know that those kids can be mean, but the truth is that you're really, really good looking. You really could be an Abercrombie model. And what I think is fascinating about that, right, is that in my mid-20s, I was a fitness model. I was a fitness competitor and a fitness coach, and I did a lot of modeling. I actually just posted a throwback on my Instagram just the other day of a modeling photo. I did 41 photo shoots where I was a fitness model. And so the truth is, I very easily could have been an Abercrombie model. Now, did I allow other people laughing at me to squander my dreams? For a very long time, I did, right? And then I leaned back into my dreams after my car accident at 26, and that's a whole nother thing. But my point here is that you need someone in your corner who believes in you. This episode is about the 5 must-haves for a next-level life. 5 from me, 5 from Kevin. My first one is this. You need to have someone in your corner who believes in you, who genuinely believes in you. If Mrs. Puckett hadn't pulled me aside and said, Alan, you're really good looking. You actually could do that. Kids are mean. Would I have done that? I had people like Mrs. Pryor tell me I could easily go to WPI. I had my guidance counselor tell me I couldn't get into MIT. See, I should not have listened. I definitely could have, right? I had straight A's. So here's my point. You need people in your corner who believe in you. I have Emilia, I have Kevin. When you say these big, audacious visions, do they laugh at you? Do they take wind out of your sails? Do they say that'll never happen? Or do they say, yeah, you can do it? And that's really important. Check in with that. That's number one. You need someone who believes in you in your corner. And if you don't have one, you've got to hire a coach. Hire me, hire another coach who's going to believe in you. It's their job to believe in you. Now, they'll give you humble pie when they have to, but they're going to believe in what's possible. They wouldn't be a coach otherwise.
Alan, if I was watching this, I would say, okay, I like that point. I appreciate that point. Maybe right now I am financially strapped. How can I find somebody in my life that believes in me? Like, how can I find and attract and sustain that type of relationship, maybe if I can't afford coaching?
People who believe in themselves tend to be very service-driven because they live in abundance. So Emilia and I were talking about this last night. We don't ever question whether or not we can achieve something. We only ever question whether or not we want to bad enough, whether or not we want to. So aside from beating LeBron James at basketball and other extenuating things like that, I don't feel like there's a ton that if I had a couple decades I couldn't really achieve. And she feels that way as well. And if you were to ever go to Emilia, I'll use her as an example, because she's so abundant and you were to actually ask her for help, she would most likely find a way to help you. So if you feel alone and you don't have someone in your corner who believes in you, you can find someone who believes in themselves and ask for help. But make sure it's someone who really walks their talk and has actual credibility. Emilia is a great example, but there's many others as well. And just make sure it's not someone on social media pretending to know what they're talking about. They actually really walk the talk.
Alan mentioned humble pie in that. Alan and I, for a while, we were doing this when we were going to the studio every week. I had heard a story about somebody wrote Tom Hanks a handwritten letter for him to be on their podcast. And I said, Alan, we have to do something different. We have to differentiate ourselves from all these other podcasts. Let's shoot custom videos for our dream guests. So for Tony Robbins, for Brendan Burchard, for just a bunch of people, we went in the studio, and on Marathon Monday, very similar to what we did today, we would say, all right, here's 5 people. Let's do a video. We're going to shoot a video, and then we're going to send it off to their team. And I remember Alan and I were like, yeah, what is that, 15 minutes? Probably take us 15, 20 minutes to do that. And the first time we did it, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. I didn't know if I was going first, if Alan was going to go first, how we were going to end, what we were going to say about their books or their podcasts. It was very, very humbling. It was a very, very humbling experience. And I think about that in the day-to-day. Tarryn and I went to the gym yesterday, and I said, I'm going to go in the boxing room and I'm going to get a good workout in. And there's a level of humility that comes with doing difficult tasks. There's a level of humility that comes with a challenge. I know that Alan and I are surrounded by people who start podcasts, or maybe Alan and I are around people who have done fitness competitions. And there's something connecting about the humility that has given us. Alan understands at a deep level what it's like to be a podcaster, what it's like to be on these microphones, what it's like to be live every single week with the risk of jeffing something, and we most likely will. And there's something humbling about doing a challenging workout. So I actually have this as my 5th point. If you want a next level life, you have to have constant reminders of humility. It's always the people in the past who would say to Alan and I, hey, you should really be doing your podcast this way, or you should really be doing your podcast that way, or you should be interviewing these types of people. These people didn't have a level of humility because they weren't podcasters. I know it's easy to tell us what we should do, but after 900 episodes and thousands of hours, we have done this to just a different level. Now, we have been humbled many, 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 many times. We will be humbled on the microphones here today. But if you want a next level life, you have to risk that failure. And the more you do it, the more you will change your relationship with that failure. It's good to fail. It's wonderful to fail as long as you have a fail forward mentality and you can sit with that level of humility. If you were to jump on here with Alan and I, and you've never done this before, you should be worse than us. You should be. It's okay. It's okay. And if you're not, we're jeffing probably pretty hard, which is definitely a possibility.
If we're not, you're a savant. And you should be doing this for a living.
Right, for sure. But there's a level of humility that comes with that. If I was to go talk with Tony Robbins, if Alan was to go talk with Tony Robbins, I expect that he would be better than us. And there's a level of humility in that. So if you want a next level life, put yourself in environments, put yourself in opportunities, put yourself in experiences that will humble you. I believe that challenge, that humility is such an important facet for a next level life. It helps you understand yourself. It helps you push through it. It helps you deal with adversity, and those are all requirements.
How do you proactively seek humble pie and learn to enjoy it and know that it's a good thing?
Just being on this team is one of the best ways. And again, I know not everybody has that opportunity. Sign up for something that's currently out of your capabilities. Sign up for something that you wouldn't normally do. Do a different workout. Take a different path to work. Raise your hand when you know you aren't ready. I remember we went to Boston. Lori Harder, we had her on for episode 32, I think, and she was doing a book tour. And if you don't know Lori Harder, look her up. She's a very successful podcaster, speaker, author, many, many things, and she's wonderful. And we went to Boston, and I said, Alan, I have to ask a question today. I don't know what I'm going to ask. I don't even care what the answer is. I need to fear chase and take a shot here and ask a question. And the question went well, and I built confidence on that. If it went badly, I would have been very humbled, and Alan and I would have had a conversation about it. So I think you just have to find an opportunity that seems a little bit out of your comfort zone and just take a shot. What's the worst case? You look bad? Let me tell this story real quick. I've never told this story on the podcast. Tarryn and I went and saw Simon Sinek live in New York. And I did the same thing with Tarryn. I said, at the end of this, I have to ask him a question. So I stood there with my hand up for like 10 minutes. And my only goal was to ask a question. I didn't even care what the answer was. And I remember he called on me and he said something about, I think he said something about how I was in shape. And that's how I should have known we were off to a rough start. I knew that was going to be trouble. And I think I said, Simon, if you were somebody my age, 10 or 15 years younger, what advice would you give yourself for your career? And he basically shit on me in front of the entire auditorium and said, like, I would tell them not to do what I'm doing. And it was a very talking down to me moment of, you don't know I'm a podcaster. You don't know that we have this amount of episodes. I didn't give enough context. It wasn't a great question. I was very, very humbled by that. And Tarryn was very, very angry at Simon Sinek. And I said, honestly, babe, that was my bad. I should have asked a way better question. I didn't give enough context. I could have done way better than that. That was a very humbling moment in front of all these people in this auditorium, but it helped me tremendously. And when we interview him, if we do, I will ask better questions for sure.
Fire. Number 2 here. Again, I want to reiterate the must-haves for a next level life. Notice how it is not the would-be nice-to-haves for a next level life. This is the must-haves for a next level life. AKA, if you want a next level life, if you want to get to the next level, you must have these things. And again, this is the thousands of hours of coaching, thousands of hours of speaking, podcasting, training, group coaching. We're not just saying this stuff. Interviewing world-class guests from all over the world, 870 episodes in, interviewing a guest every week for the last 5 years. We're deducing, we would have to be, really unintelligent at this point to not notice the patterns of what it takes to succeed, the patterns of what it takes to be fulfilled, the patterns of what it takes to be in shape, the patterns of what it takes to be wealthy, the patterns of what it takes to be healthy and in love. So, number 2, a routine that serves you. John Maxwell quote, "The key to your long-term success lives in your daily routine." Simplest quote ever, one of the most powerful quotes of all time. So I told Kevin this recently. We all on the team do peak performance tracking. Everyone knows that. If you're a new listener, be sure to ask us, reach out, ask us what that is. It's simply a habit tracker, 12 habits a day, 4 under health, 4 under wealth, 4 under love. And I told Kev this recently. I said, Kev, when I go to the gym with Emilia, I Jeff like my last 4 habits, because my last 4 habits are review the podcast, foam roll or ROMWOD. ROMWOD is basically long form stretching, cardio, and track my weight. And then weight training is in there as well, so it's 5 habits. Yesterday, I got a 96% total productive output, which means that I did all of those things. Emilia and I talked last night on Sunday, and we said, okay, let's revamp the schedule. So Emilia and I, after this is over, so I work from 10 to 7. After 7 o'clock, that's when I transition into my pre-workout meal, and then we go to the gym together, Emilia and I. Now what Emilia and I are doing is we're going into the gym. We're doing 10 minutes of foam rolling with a timer set, and I'm reviewing the podcast. 10 minutes of cardio. I'm still finishing reviewing the podcast. Notice how every episode is around 15 to 25 minutes. And then we're doing 30 minutes of weights. So 50 minutes every single day. And we just got new batteries for our scale. So when I get home and I shower after the gym, I step on the scale before I get in the shower. Now, from now on, because of that routine that serves me, I will most likely have higher total productive output. Our COO, Alessandro, will be super pumped about that because he checks everyone's numbers every day. But here's my point. If you don't have a routine that serves you, it was something simple. Emilia and I, when we went to the gym together, I wouldn't review the podcast because we talk on the car ride there. We have fun and we're playful before the gym, and then we weight train and then we leave. But I wasn't getting my cardio in. I wasn't foam rolling or doing long form stretching. Now, because we're on a team and we have the same routine that serves us both, now I'm going to be far more consistent. The tiniest tweaks to your routine make the biggest difference in the long run. 10 minutes of foam rolling, 10 minutes of cardio, 30 minutes of weight training. One time doesn't mean anything. But if we implement that and we stay consistent for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, it's going to make a world of difference, not only in our relationship, but in our physiques, in our sex life, in our whole life. And so, again, a routine that serves you. what are 5 musts you must have for a next level life? One of them is a routine that serves you. I cannot even tell you how many people want success but don't want any structure. It's not a thing, okay? It's not. If you want success, you need systems, period.
Alan, how do you know how often and when to change your routine? I just changed mine, and it's been wonderful, but Tara and I going to the gym together sparked that. So I don't know that I would have done that organically. How do you test that out? How do you know when?
It's hard for me to answer that, but I appreciate the question.
Of course.
The reason it's hard for me to answer that is because I've always been very future oriented, and when I set a goal, my subconscious mind connects with it, and I can tell when I'm off of the goal. So, for example, on this podcast, when we're off track, I can feel it, and then I tell Kev, hey, I got to download. My subconscious told me that we need to do XYZ changes in order to... We just redesigned Kevin's system today. And one of the reasons is because I told him that we're off track. What I would tell you is this. This is the best way I can answer that question. Your conscious mind is not nearly as powerful as your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is running most of your processing, and it's 40,000 times more powerful from a biological standpoint. So, but your conscious mind is the commander. So think of a ship with 40,000 people on it, huge ship somehow, 40,000 people on it. And there's one captain of the ship. The captain is your conscious mind. But the 39,999 crew members are the ones that are doing the work. And so your conscious mind, your captain, has to choose in advance a specific, clear goal in order for the crew to say, hey, captain, we're off track. So how do I know when to redesign my system? I get told by my subconscious mind. And I know that's kind of esoteric, but that's all I've got.
Fair enough. I appreciate it.
Hello, this is Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and we are well into 2022. And maybe you are not willing to have a repeat of the last 2 years. Or perhaps you've had an inkling for quite some time that you are destined for something greater than what you're experiencing in your reality right now. Maybe it's your business or your work, and you know that there's greater value and impact that you can have in your community. Or maybe it's love and connection that's been eluding you. Or perhaps it's your health and wellness, and you know that you can feel better, do better than this. Well, join us at Next Level Live, March 26th, a full-day immersion with experts in their fields to help guide you on how to bring your life to the next level. Looking forward to seeing you there.
For those of you who know, in my past life, I was a foreman for a company that did weatherization, just think energy efficiency in state and government-owned buildings. And one day we were out in Western Massachusetts, and we were in this old, not a town hall, I think it was like a town hall kind of mix, and the public buildings. And I was up in an attic, and we were blowing this blown-in insulation. And I'm just sitting in the attic. I have this giant hose that blows out a bunch of insulation. I always loved it because I was just in the attic. I could listen to music. I had a headlamp on. It was just jamming. And we get to the end of the day, and we're rolling up the hose, and I'm looking over the floor plan, and I'm looking, and I say, oh, no, this isn't right. This isn't where I put all this stuff. So I actually went into the wrong part of the building. I went into the wrong attic, and I blew an entire pallet, which I believe is something like 42 bags of cellulose insulation into the wrong attic. And when you blow this stuff in, there is no taking it out because it's just a giant nightmare. You got to think it's a foot of insulation on the entirety of the attic. And I remember thinking to myself, number one, I got to come up with a real good lie. I don't know what this lie is going to be, but I don't know, maybe a bird stole the paperwork or something. I got to get creative here. And I ended up calling my office and I said, hey, I jeffed. I made a big time jeff. I blew all the insulation. And for those of you who don't know, that means big time mistake, big time screw up. I blew all the insulation into the wrong attic. And my project manager said, oh, that's not ideal. He said, all right, first of all, I appreciate you owning it. Second of all, just check your paperwork better next time. We'll send out another truck. We'll get you a new pallet of insulation and you can finish the job. And I said, all right, awesome. I took ownership. And if you want a next level life, you not only have to take ownership with other people, but you have to take ownership with yourself. Alan and I talked about this earlier on an episode. I am in the exact shape right now in terms of my physical shape, my body, my physique, that I deserve to be. I have to own the fact that I haven't been dieting as hard as I was in the beginning. I've been focused on other things. I've been focused on pleasure. I've been focused on pizza. I've been focused on cookies. And that's why my physique is the way it is. I have to take that ownership because there's empowerment in that. And we all know somebody who they can never be wrong. You have a conversation with them and it's their way or the highway. If you want a next level life, don't be that person in your relationships. Tarryn and I have been having wonderful, wonderful conversations where we drive to 5 and we both say, you know what, that was on me. Or she'll say, yeah, that was on me. And we're more connected and more in love after we have those conversations. Same with Alan and I. We're rumbling with business every day. Sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it's hard. If I'm wrong, I say, hey man, yeah, that's on me. You're right. If Alan's wrong, he says, hey, that was on me. If you want a next level life, you have to get right with yourself when you're wrong. And don't be the person in the relationship who has to be right every single time. This goes back to the humility. Have the humility to admit you're wrong, because when you are wrong and the other person knows it, you admitting it is only going to help. And they're going to look at your character differently. They're going to trust you more, and the relationship will improve. We all make mistakes, but not all of us own up to it. Make sure you own up to your mistakes.
Absolute fire, Kev. I think that might be a good example, and I was trying to think of one for me because I do believe that I've come way up on the taking ownership piece, and I do think that's always been a fairly good strength. The other thing to understand about ownership that's really important is when it's not your fault, you can't do anything about it. Mm. So like Kevin said, it's empowering to say, that's on me. Because, you know, it's not empowering to say, it's because of McDonald's, or, it's because of fast food, or, it's because of all those might be playing a factor, but you didn't autopilot drive to McDonald's and have to order those McFlurries. And so it's not like the food is jumping into our mouths. And taking responsibility for the fact that it's your own choices. It's your own work ethic. It's your own lack of self-discipline. It's your own inability to be on time. It's your own calendar habits. It's your own inability to be vulnerable when you need to be. The people who take the most responsibility end up with the most success. The people who take the most responsibility are the people who end up with the most next level life. And it's hard to correlate those two, especially because a lot of that's happening behind the scenes. Kev, earlier today, I was talking to you about the 4 facets of what it takes for business success: prudence, organization, perfectionism, and diligence, which is hard work and sweat equity. And we were talking about your email. Would you be willing to be vulnerable with us and just talk about that briefly?
Yeah. So I don't remember how we got on the...
You took ownership very well.
I appreciate that. It was hard.
Absolutely.
But again, that's been practiced over years and years, and it still sucks. It's still hard. Alan and I were talking about email, and he's like, hey, would you mind... And bear in mind, Alan, as the CEO of Next Level University, the Next Level Universe, Alan technically is my boss in terms of he coaches me, and I'm totally okay with that. That's our agreement. That's our relationship, which has been strange at times, but it's now normal and it's wonderful, and everything's accelerating because of that. And he said, hey, would you mind showing me your email? And I was like, what kind of mood are you in right now? Because I have 5,873 unread messages, and I know you're not going to like it. And he's like, just open up your email. And I was like, all right, cool. So we open up my email, and he's like, Kev, if you really want to have the level of success that you want to have, you got to get your shit together. You have to be more organized. And here are the reasons why. Do you really think that you can have the level of impact and success you want without that organizational tool, without that skill? And he said, you've come way up, but you have a long way to go. And he just asked me some questions of like, how do you go about your email? Why are you subscribed to what you're subscribed to? Should you be getting notifications for that? It sucked for sure. But I think another part of it too is you have to understand that the person you're being honest and transparent with, vulnerable with, it's only going to help your results. I believe in my heart of hearts that Alan knows what I should be doing. So I think that's an important part of it too. You have to trust that the person not only wants what's best for you, but knows what's best for you. I think that's an interesting thing. You can want what's best for me, but a lot of people want me to be happy and be safe. And being an entrepreneur is not safe, right? So somebody might say, Kev, you shouldn't do that because you could fail. It's like, yeah, I definitely could, but I also could be more fulfilled if I do it. So I think that's an important thing. But yeah, it was difficult. It was challenging. I was insecure for sure, but the relationship is stronger now because of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And my email is
appreciate
going to be
that, man.
clean as a whistle in no time.
Yeah. I just want to make it clear that I led by example too. I pulled up my email and I
Yes.
said there's 7 emails. Now, also huge shout out to Amy because she helps me with my email. So that's another piece of it as well. But buttoning up and organization, another thing you must have for a next level life. All right, so we got a crank. I just looked at the time. We've only got 10
we're jeffing.
minutes. Oh yeah, we're out here doing it. All right, so we've all met that special someone at some point in time. And maybe you haven't in a long time, but we've all had that experience where we met someone and we got super excited for a potential future with that person. And so let's take us through this experience. Okay, you meet this person and you're super attracted to them. You think they're awesome, they're funny, they're great. And you start to envision the future. You start to envision what a second date or a third date or a fourth date, what it would be like to be with them, what it would be like to meet their family, and then what it would be like to have them meet your family and meet your friends, and what it would be like at the wedding, or what it would be like to live with them, or to have kids with them, or to have a pet with them, and what it would be like to achieve dreams with them. And we've all had that vision of our own wedding and with that person, right? The point that I'm making here that is so important, and I've always wondered this, because all of us have had that experience, at least to some extent, even if we were wrong about it being our person. We've all had that experience where we've envisioned a brighter future with someone else in it, that specific, clear future. And Emilia and I have done this together so much. We have very specific goals about a home on the side of a mountain with a deck with has a jacuzzi on it, and us in the jacuzzi looking up at the stars overlooking the mountain, right? And somewhere near a lake or an ocean or, one of both. So 2 different houses with this. And we also have a specific yacht that we want to pick out, and all these different goals and dreams and visions. So what's my point? These are the things that you need for a next level life. And here's one of the ones that's the most critical, that is the most overlooked. You have to have a vision that excites you. Would you even have gone on that second, third, fourth date? Would you have texted them back or called them back if you didn't have a vision of that future that excites you? And I want to bring this back to what we were talking about earlier. When I was talking and answering Kevin's question about the subconscious mind, I want to make this clear. Have you ever seen your ex's car and you notice it everywhere? Okay? Think of one of your exes and what they used to drive. My very first girlfriend, her name was Alyssa, she used to drive a Saturn. And I see these Saturns everywhere still, even though they're so old, yeah. Right? And that's your subconscious mind picking up on something that it believes is relevant. The same is true when you have clear specific goals, clear specific visions. So when I said to Kevin's question, how do you know how to redesign your system or when to redesign your system? My subconscious tells me. What I'm saying is this. If you have a clear vision that you're connected to, your mind will work on it. Your mind will work on how to create it. Right? When you're sitting there contemplating, how do I get in shape? Okay, I want this physique. Okay, well, maybe I should weight train. Oh, I should probably do cardio. Oh, I should probably foam roll too. Oh, I should hire a personal trainer. See, those ideas didn't come out of nowhere. They came as a result of a vision that you decided in advance. I cannot make this clear enough. You have to have a vision that excites you. And that's my third point.
The other night, I don't know if you saw this on the credit card bill or not, Alan, but Tarryn and I got pizza. We got some takeout. And at the end of the day, I don't remember what time I finished, but Tarryn got home and I said, "Hey, how was your day?" And she said, it was kind of crappy. And I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "Well, I was going to the store and I was down at an intersection and there was a homeless man. And I asked him if he needed anything, and because it was really cold and we were supposed to get like 2 feet of snow. And she said, yeah, he said he would take a hot chocolate. So I went and got him a hot chocolate, and I came back around and I said, "Hey, do you have somewhere to stay tonight?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm good." And she ended up calling a shelter asking if he could stay there. And I think she got him something else, like something to eat from Dunkin' Donuts or something. And she said she had this weird feeling after, and she looked it up. And on the local Facebook page or whatever it said that this person is a scammer. This is somebody who isn't necessarily homeless, but they hang out and try to collect money and things from people. And that made her super sad. And because she said there's people out there that could really use that help. There's animals, there's people, like, she was really sad. And I told her, I said, babe, I want you to know, because she was crying, and I said, I want you to know that that part of you is my favorite part of you. Like, don't let this stop you from showing that off. Like, your heart is my absolute favorite part of you. And we were crying a little bit, and I was holding her. And it was just this wonderful moment of, that's one of the reasons that I not only work so hard, but that I feel so grateful, because I am inspired by that. I am genuinely inspired by her heart, her character. She makes me a better person. So the point I'm making here is, if you want a next level life, if you really want to level up, if you want to improve, you have to have something that truly inspires you, whether it's a person, a purpose, or perspective. Tarryn is a person, her character, her heart, most inspirational thing in the world. And I told her, like, I will never stop working so we can make sure that that doesn't happen to anybody we know, and we can make the world a better place when it comes to that, whether it's a dog shelter or a homeless shelter, whatever it may be. I remember Alan and I spoke down in Florida with Eddie Pinero at Your World Within Live, and we were getting ready to walk down to lunch. At halfway through the day, we were going down to lunch, and we had this nice table, and it was going to be awesome. But somebody pulled me aside and said, hey, can you talk to me? And I was like, yeah, I'll talk to you. And I ended up talking to this person throughout the entire lunch. Missed lunch. I was starving. They brought a salad up for me, which was nice. But this person had been suicidal, and she had been going through all this stuff. And she's like, this event really helped me. Like, what you guys talked about on stage really helped me. And again, that's the purpose part of it. I would sit there all day and talk to her and not get lunch and not eat, because that purpose makes me feel alive. So maybe it's not that, maybe it's not being a speaker or whatever it may be, but find purpose, find perspective, or find a person, find something that truly inspires you, because that's going to help you achieve a next level of life for sure.
That was a beautiful story about Tarryn. Kudos to her on that. And that's a reflection, that scammer, that's not a reflection of her. That's a reflection of that other person more than her, Yeah. That's awesome, man. Fire. Okay. So took me out of flow there for a second there. 5 must-haves for next level life. I keep repeating it on purpose. Must-haves. This next one, so yesterday, every Sunday is Emilia and I's house optimization day. And so we hung a bunch of stuff yesterday. So we have these 3 words, our 3 core values for our relationship, our primary 3, I should say, are 3 words. The first one is optimize. The second one is align. And then the third one is erudite. So we ordered these words, and we have them hanging over our kitchen banner. And I hung them yesterday, finally, because we had a ladder in our living room for far
Carpenter
too long.
Jeff.
Yeah. And I also hung a clock. We have a clock. We have cathedral ceilings, and it's a really beautiful place. And I had to get out a big ladder to get this clock up.
I would have paid to see that. I would have paid to see that.
It was interesting. I had it's a whole thing. So, but before I hung the clock, for me, maybe this is my perfectionism or my engineering background, but I have to have everything geometrically proper. Like right now, for example, this camera is directly aligned with Vizio, which is the bottom of my TV, and then my laptop is directly aligned with that. I'm very strategic with everything being geometrically proper. So I went to the whiteboard. We have this big whiteboard in our house, and I calculated. So the back of the clock has a hanger part that's not in the center of the clock. So I had to go and calculate. So I'm up on the ladder, and I'm measuring the width and the length of this part of our condo, and trying to calculate on the whiteboard. It's actually pretty intense mathematics to figure out where to put the screw in. And so I figured out it was 33.75 inches up from the bottom, and I went and I did the screw, and the clock is perfect. So what's the point of this whole story? The point is, you have to have an obsession with getting better. And this is more about Emilia than it is about me. So I left it on the whiteboard. I left all the math on the whiteboard. And I was going to erase it this morning. And before I erased it, I know my baby, and I said, sweetheart, would you rather me wait to erase this so I can take you through it later? Because she thought it was the coolest thing ever. She got off with Bianca. Bianca's her co-host. They have a podcast as well. And she came downstairs yesterday before we went to the gym, and she's like, what's that? And I'm like, well, that was the math to hang the clock perfectly. And she got so excited. She's like, that is the coolest thing ever. I had the smartest boyfriend ever. She was so sweet. And so this morning, I knew she's going to want to learn that. She studies math. She wants me to help her in math. And so I didn't erase it on purpose. And she wants me to take her through the mathematics of how I did that, because she's like, if I hung the clock, it would have been like off center or whatever. Here's my point. Emilia is obsessed with getting better every second of every day forever, more so than anyone I've ever personally met. That's my fourth point. If you want to live a next level life, you have to be obsessed with getting better. If Kevin didn't want to be a better speaker, we would not be good. We're still probably not that good.
Not as good as we will be.
Exactly. I can't even tell you how many times we've gotten off this live podcast and then talked about how to be better. I know we just crossed the 4:40 mark, so now
we're jeffing.
The experience review is going to be, let's be on time. But that's my fourth point. You have to be obsessed with getting better. Think of any hero you have. Taylor Swift, Tom Brady, Meryl Streep, Serena Williams, Tony Robbins. They are all of them, obsessed with getting better. I found out Beyonce reviewed every concert the moment after the concert ended, always. You have to be obsessed with getting better, period. Otherwise, you won't have a next level life.
I'll make this last one very, very quick. I was on a podcast recently, and they said, okay, you made six figures in your mid-20s, and you had all these nice things, nice car. Your girlfriend was very beautiful. You had a new apartment. You had all this money, all the things that you wanted. Do you think back and dig really deep? Why do you think you were unhappy? Like really, really think about it. And I said, well, I think I had a lot of unresolved father issues from when I was a kid, that my dad wasn't there, and I internalized those. I made them my fault, and I never checked in with what would make me happy as a person. And for me, it's very easy to answer that. It's like, of course, that makes total sense to me. My last point, and I'll make this quick. If you want a next level life, if you really, really want to achieve more, be greater, be happier, be more fulfilled, be more on purpose, you have to have a deeper layer of understanding of yourself. So yes, being an entrepreneur will teach you a lot of things, for sure. But one of the must-haves is self-awareness. And as an entrepreneur, as a human being, the more you learn about yourself, the more successful you can be, because you'll understand yourself at a deeper level. Nothing is just one layer deep. So yes, I have this behavior, but it's because of this, which is because of this, which is because of this. The more deep you dig, the more successful you can be. And honestly, the more fulfilled you can be, because you'll understand yourself at a very deep level. So check in with yourself, raise your awareness. Some would say become hyper conscious.
Mm-hmm. Strong work, Kev.
Yeah. You got one more, or is that it?
I did have one more. I have to go super quick with this. It's accurate data-driven decision-making. So the fifth thing that you need if you want to be successful is accurate data-driven decision-making. I'll be very fast about this. I had a client who is creating a mobile app to connect companies with young entrepreneurs. Magnificent person, magnificent app, gonna be awesome. But when we were doing her pitch deck, because she was gonna get venture capital, now I think she's gonna actually fund the thing herself. But when we were doing her pitch deck, she was only looking at her country's marketplace. And I said, why not global? According to Google, there is 4.95 billion people online. We have listeners all over the world, hundreds of thousands. And a large majority, I want to say at least 50%, are outside of this country. And so you need to think globally. So the last point is accurate data-driven decisions. See, she was making a decision based on a geographical conditioning of, like, if you open a gym in your hometown, you can only think of the people who can drive to the gym. With the internet, you can think of a global marketplace. So that's my last point. You have to be accurate in your data. You need to think about data more than just your cognitive biases. And I can't go down that rabbit hole, but think about the data. A lot of us either think we either have an optimism bias or we have a pessimism bias. Most people have a pessimism bias. And usually it's because we're not looking at the real statistics.